Now let's see this conflict equivalent schedules. So before talking about conflict equivalent schedules, you should understand what is a conflict. Now conflict means whenever you're executing a transaction, or let us say a schedule, if it is having more than one transactions, then there can be some conflicting actions. Now what are they? So if say there are two different transactions present in a schedule, and if both of them are acting on the same data type or same data item, and one of them is writing and other one is reading and other one is writing, then this is a conflict, right? Or if one of them is writing and other one is reading the same data item, then it is a conflict. And one of them is writing and other one is writing, then it is again a conflict. So how to remember this one is, whenever two actions are from different, both the actions have to be from different transactions, right? So there will never be a conflict between the actions within the same transaction. So first thing is, both the actions have to come from different transactions, and second thing is, both of them should be working on the or acting on the same data item. And the third important point is, at least one of the actions should be right action, right? If these three conditions are followed, then we can say that there is a conflict between two operations, right? If I have to say that there are two operations, let us say operation 1 and operation 2, if these two are going to be conflict operations, then both of them have to be from different transactions, and both of them must be acting on the same data item, and at least one of them has to be right. Got it? So in this case, this action is from Ti and this action is from Tj, and both of them are acting on the same one, and one of them is right, therefore it is a conflict, right? And this one is from Ti, this one is from Tj, and both of them are acting on A, and one of them is right, therefore it is a conflict. And similarly here also it is a conflict. Now whatever are remaining other than this, they are all going to be non-conflicting, right? So what I mean, now if actions are all from the same transactions, they are non-conflicting. Or if the actions are just simply read operations, not the write, then they are non-conflicting. Or if they are acting on two different data items, then they are all non-conflicting, which means if Ti is acting on data item A and Tj is acting on data item B, then since they are working on different data items, they are not conflicting, right? So other than this, whatever you see are non-conflicting. Now if you have to talk about conflict equivalent schedules, you have to understand or identify what are all the conflicting actions, and then you should order them. Okay, let's see this. Two schedules are said to be conflict equivalent if the conflict operations in both of the schedules are executing in the same order. Okay, with example I'll explain this. What I mean by this is, let's see this. Now let us say there is a schedule which is having two transactions, T1 and T2. Now both of them are having some operations. Now if you see this one is operating on A and this one is also operating on A. Since it is read, we don't have any conflict between them, right? And this one is operating on A and this one is operating on A, but since it is read write, there is a conflict, right? Therefore there is a conflict between these two operations. Why? Because these two operations are from two different transactions, and one is read and other is write, and both of them are doing on the same data item. But then you should not say that there is a conflict between these two, because they both are from the same transaction. Got it? And now look at this. This is a write and this is a read, and both of them are operating on A, and both of them are from two different transactions. Therefore there is a conflict between these two, right? And again this is a write and this is a write, and both of them are from two different transactions, and both of them are acting on the same data item. Therefore there is a conflict, right? And what about this one and this one? So this one is on B and this one is on A, and this similarly this is entire set is working on B and this entire set is working on A. Therefore there will be no conflicts between them, even though they are from different transactions, right? Now if you observe it clearly, there are three conflicting operations. Now let's see the order in which they are appearing. So if you have to write the order, it will be better if you can rename it as all the actions which are on the T1 side. I'm just naming it as R1 W1 R1 W1, right? And here or to W2, just to say that this is from transaction 1 and this is from transaction 2. Now let me just say what is the order in which they are appearing, right? In here, if you observe this conflict is in such a way that there is read from transaction 1 on A, then only there is a write from transaction 2 on A. This is the order in which it is appearing. Now what about this one? There is a write on data item A by transaction 1, then only there is a write by transaction 2 on data item A, right? And if you look at next one, here this one, between these two, there is a write on data item A by transaction 1, then there is a read on data item A by transaction 2. Alright, so this is the order in which the conflicts are occurring. Now if we can test that whether in some other schedule, if there are any conflicts, if they are occurring in the same way, then you can say that this particular schedule is conflict equivalent to that schedule. Let us compare it with some other schedule. Let's say this one. Okay, now this is also a different schedule. This is a schedule and this is a different schedule, and in this schedule we are going to have same transactions. See, both of them are actually executing the same transactions, T1 and T2, which means if I have two transactions coming in, then these might be two possible ways of executing them. This is one schedule and this is other schedule. Now I just want to see whether what are the conflicts in this, and then whether both are equal or not. Okay, now if you look at this, A and A, right, these two are not going to be conflict because both are read, right? Even though they are acting on the same data item and even though they are from different transactions, read is not going to create any problem, right? Now if you look at this one and this one, then read write, yes, so it is a conflict because both of them are from two different transactions and both of them are working on the same data item and at least one of them is write, therefore it is a conflict, yes, right? And what about this one? Next, this one, this is going to conflict with this because both of them are working on the same data item, which is A, and one of them is write, therefore it is going to be conflict, right? And again this one is going to be conflict, write, because both of them are from two different transactions and at least one of them is write and they both are working on the same data item. Got it? And what about this one and this one? No conflict because they are working on two different data items. No conflict because they are working on two different data items, right? Okay, now let's see what is the order of these conflicting operations are. Now just for the sake of understanding, you can rename this as 1 1 1 1 to understand that these are all the operations happening on transaction 1, and you can write it as 2 2 so that you can understand that these are happening on transaction 2 side. Okay, fine. Now if you see the order, first this should occur and then this should occur, which means first R1 of A, which means transaction 1 is going to read the value of A, and then only transaction 2 is going to write the value of A, and then here transaction 1 is going to write the value of A, and then only transaction 2 is going to write the value of A, and transaction 1 is going to write the value of A, and then only transaction 2 is going to read the value of A, right? Now if you observe this, the way, see, this one is there, the conflict actions are occurring in the same order, by first one first and then the second transaction, same thing, right? And now if you observe this, W1 W2, the same thing is happening there, right? W1 and then W2, which means by first transaction and then second transaction. Now if you observe this, W1 and R2, right? Yes, got it? Therefore these two are conflict equivalent. Now if you observe these schedules, there is one more interesting behavior there, or one more interesting property. Now this schedule is not a serial schedule, but this schedule is a serial schedule, right? In this serial schedule, it is actually T1 followed by T2. See, if you want to complete it, you can just write a complete schedule by writing commit and commit here. But anyway, that is not what we are worrying about here. So let us say this is the entire complete transaction, and this is the complete transaction. Now if you compare it, this is a non-serial schedule and this is a serial schedule. Now a non-serial schedule is conflict equivalent to a serial schedule. Got it? That is why this non-serial schedule will now become conflict serializable. So what is this one called? This schedule is conflict serializable because it is conflict equivalent to a serial schedule. Got it? And it is an important property. So we are going to allow conflict serializable schedules only because it is going to be equivalent to a serial schedule. Got it? Now that is what is called as conflict serializable concept. But then this way of checking it is going to be tedious if you are going to have lot of transactions. See, what did we do? We have taken a transaction or schedule which is not serial, and then we compared with a serial schedule, and since both are equivalent according to the conflict, we are saying that it is conflict serializable. Then what will the general procedure be? You might have to take all the serial schedules and you might have to compare this non-serial until you get it equivalent to one of them. But then this method is going to be very lengthy if the number of transactions are going to increase in a schedule. Let us say you have n transactions, right, or 4 transactions if you have. Then how many serial schedules are possible? The number of serial schedules possible will be 4 factorial. Right, 4 factorial means 24. So 24 serial schedules are possible, and if you have to check whether this particular non-serial schedule is conflict serializable or not, then you might have to write all 24 possibilities, and if you have to check whether this one is equivalent to any one of them. But it is going to be a lengthy method if you are going to go this way. So for this reason we shall use some other method using which we will be directly able to say whether this one is conflict serializable or not. In case if it is conflict serializable, what are the serial schedules to which it is equivalent to? Okay, we shall see that with examples. That method will be simple. This method is lengthy, but then in order to understand this, I have just given you this. Okay, don't use this in the exam. Okay, fine.